Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. I know it's a Friday morning, so thanks for skipping work. Appreciate that. So first of all, I just wanted to give a little bit of a preface of why I wanted to do this event. I'm a big believer in the impact fathers have in the home and in the household in general, the role they play in children's lives. And online especially, we get quite a negative perception of fatherhood and father's involvement, and sometimes we get this narrative of, the deadbeat dads, and I'm kind of anti that, and I believe that that's incorrect, and especially when it comes to, black fathers. So I'm just here to have this conversation to kind of show that's not the narrative, that's not the realistic narrative, and I've got some great gentlemen on the panel here, and I'll just let them introduce themselves.
Yo, what's up, everyone? I'm Orisha Williams. I sing a little bit and write a few songs here and there. Sorry, we got mics.
Hi, my name is Naber. I am a radio host. I've got a football show on the Beat London 103.6 FM. I'll plug that. And also music host as well with Levels.
And I'm Marcel Somerville. I'm a DJ, a music producer. I was on Love Island, and I used to be in the Blazing Squad, so yeah.
So we've got quite a mix here at the minute, so thank you very much for coming, guys. One things we've got in common, we all have children, so I thought, fathers, should hope so.
It makes sense.
Should hope so, right? Otherwise, different sort of crowd, but I suppose just want to touch on a few things here today. The guys are going to share experiences. I'll touch on my experiences a little bit as well, but these are the real fathers, in my opinion. I'm just standby, I guess. So really, I suppose the first question, which is just kind of a great opener in my opinion, is what was each of you's first thoughts on discovering you as a father? How did that make you feel? What emotions was you going through? Was you scared? Was you concerned? How was that experience for you?
So for me, if I'm going to be completely honest, it's been a bit complex, and I'll tell you for why. So my first son was when I found out he was coming into this beautiful world was when I was on tour, and that was an amazing experience. And he's 10 years old, and then my son, who's now 8 years old. Before him, unfortunately, me and my wife, we had 2 miscarriages. We were. For when she got pregnant with baby Shiva, we obviously were kind of very much on edge. Do you know what I mean? Just praying and hoping that that everything will be fine and everything will be good. But obviously when he came into the world, honestly, it was the best feeling ever. So that's where we were at.
It was an incredible feeling when you obviously, the pregnancy is here. I think you kind of, when you're younger, you always think, if you want to have children, you always kind of envision how it's going to be and stuff. I didn't panic. I was obviously blessed and happy, but I've always kind of been a person that takes care of myself, financially literate. I kind of would think, I've got life figured out. But then obviously when the family grows, that's when I was thinking, okay, wow, it's not just me now. Do you know what I mean? I've got to have this family for the rest of my life now. So I did feel a little bit pressure. Looking back at it now, I don't think I really had to, but this was my first time being a father. So excited, but there was a little bit of nerves, and I just knew that, this is a contract for life, and it's going to be life-changing. So I think it was just adapting there. But once you go through the journey with your partner, with everything that they're going through, I think sometimes you just put your sort of worries to the side. I think you'll probably last maybe like 6 a.m. in the morning. I'll be thinking, oh my gosh, like I've got to make sure financially, am I going to be the good dad? Am I going to be a good partner? But then because every month, every day they're growing, your partner, in terms of the pregnancy. So I kind of felt you just give more of the attention on there to make sure that they're all right, that they're comfortable. So I kind of do feel you do suppress, or I did kind of suppress my worries and anxieties. I just thought, I just need to man up here now. I need to be there for her and stuff. So, but yeah, a blessing.
Yeah, so I think for me, I found out I was having Roman during the pandemic. So like a lot of people were having babies during the pandemic. It was like a big thing where there was like COVID babies, and like and like literally, I remember my missus coming down at the time and like bring me a box, and it had like the pregnancy test in it and all that kind of stuff, and I was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. So like you're going through this like stressful time in the world, in life, but then like this moment of like, just like you're about to become a dad, just like hit me, and I was like, this is like the best thing in the world. Like it was like I was crying and stuff. Like I don't usually cry. I'm not a big crier, but then I was crying. It was just like a really special moment. But then at the same time, literally the following week, I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So literally it was like finding out you're becoming a dad, then like I nearly died, and then it was basically just like realizing like I've literally got to come through this situation and just make sure that I'm ready to go and ready to be the best dad that I can be, make sure that I'm just here for my son. So it was like, I don't know, like I feel like in that period of time there was like a lot of emotions, but it was like knowing that I was going to be a dad was literally just the driving force that was just like making me just want to like just be the best version of me that I could be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really understand that, actually, what you said on the last bit there, because I think when I found out that I was having a baby, and I'd been married like a couple of months prior to that, so it was all kind of kicking off pretty quickly. I felt like I needed to strive to be the best, because I'm like, I've got 9 months now to push and be better. And I remember I had this sticker up across my desk, and it said, imagine telling your son you quit because it got hard. So that's kind of my little motivation. And then what happened is when he was born, literally maybe two months, or literally like a month after he was born, I lost my job. And so I was like, I'm going to have to figure something out. But on the plus side, it means that I didn't have to worry about paternity as much because I had some free time. But also that bonding that we had over that period, which was maybe an additional, 2 weeks or so, I think it even shows now. There's a photo that I was looking at the other day, and it was just maybe 2 weeks after he was born. He's just looking up, smiling at me, and it's just like, yeah, I'll find another job, man. It's not that deep. So yeah, that was the experience for me, I'd say. And it kind of leads me to the other question about our own relationships with our own fathers, and what is that relationship like for you guys? Is it good? Is it negative? Is it up and down? How has it kind of influenced your role as a father, or what you want to be as a father?
So for me, I'll be honest with you, relationship with my father has been challenging. In many ways, we have a lot of similarities as well. So he's extremely ambitious, always wanting to strive for excellence. But what my father did do was he very much taught me about my cultural identity. So my parents are from the Caribbean, but they were very much Pan-Africanists. So I learned very much about my roots, my cultural heritage growing up. My first name, Orisha Jolomi, is a Nigerian Shakiri name. So, it was very much understanding my identity more than anything else. And when I think about like my 2 sons, that's really important to me, because they've got so much rich culture between myself and obviously their mums, that it's really important for me to kind of pass on that intentional understanding of where they come from originally. So yeah, that's what it is for me.
Yeah, I've had my parents, so my dad's from St. Lucia in the Caribbean, my mum is from Ghana, West Africa, so the upbringing, as you can imagine, was very cultural diverse. I would say those two are proper pro. My mum is pro Ghanaian, like she taught us about the flag, each color, what it means, the black star, and my dad is pro St. Lucia. So by them separating when I was younger, I was the youngest child, the only boy, so it was very female heavy in my upbringing. So now looking back now as a man, growing up, maybe I listened to certain criticisms of my dad. And when you're in that environment, very female heavy in my family, it might distort your opinion on what a man was. But I've got to that stage now. I always used to go and see him. Very, very strong, masculine sort of man. Obviously, he came to the UK in the early 60s, so these were the times where there was no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. So you have to put it into context of, you know, the sort of father he was. Always, you know, you have to learn to defend yourself. You always have to stick up. So he was quite rough, actually, growing up. When I'm looking at it now, I thought, my gosh, I was in a home with females, but then when I go to see him, it's really pro-masculine. Like, are you fighting? Don't get beaten up at school. Don't give up your rights. Don't do this and that. But when I'm at home, everything is more softer and understanding. So I really look back now and appreciate both kind of parenting, especially with my dad. I think it was important. But it's when you become a man yourself, on my personal journey, that's when I actually learned to actually appreciate what he did do. Because I kind of feel we're very tough on, not everybody, I don't know everyone's situation, but I see that people are quite tough on their parents. And you've got to realize that now, as parents or even people now, we have Google, we've got the internet. So now we can actually think, all right, I'm behaving this way. It could be mental health. It could be something I'm eating. It could be society. They were raising kids in the early 80s. The only advice that my dad probably had was from the other guy in the pub, another solution guy who would tell him, do this with your kids. So I always try to look at life in terms of parenting with a bit more context. So when I look back at it, he was an incredible dad from what he knew. And he did kind of teach me that sort of way. And I kind of feel like I'm passing certain things on to my son as well. I think, I don't know, I was maybe taught to be kind of too rough with him and, dad, you know, picking holes in your parents. But you've got to, when you're a parent yourself, there's no guidebook. It's a very, very difficult thing. And we're blessed in today's society that we have podcasts, these discussions. This wasn't happening in the 80s, man. You know? Do you feel what I'm saying? So now I look back and think, you know what, Dad? Obviously, when I went to see him last year in St. Lucia, I just had an open conversation and said, maybe when I was younger, I kind of thought you were kind of a bit aggressive and stuff like that on the way that you're doing things. But I just had to obviously make sure he knew that I appreciate certain things that you did kind of teach me, and I'm definitely passing them on to my dad. So when he's around the boys, you used to see the softer side of him coming out. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a journey, but yeah, I appreciate that upbringing.
Like what you just said there about like your son softening your dad. That's literally exactly the same thing with my dad. Because like my dad was always like a suit. Like my dad would go to work, make sure that there's food in the house, make sure that everything's taken care of. But he wasn't always like the most hands-on dad. Like my mum was more like we're gonna go and do this, we're gonna go and do that. My dad was more like, I've been at work, I'm gonna go and chill because I've been at work, I've been working hard, innit? So I think one of the things that kind of like I've learned over the time is that obviously like as a man you automatically think that I need to be the provider, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. And I think that's instilled into a lot of like the older generation that's what being a father is. And like obviously I'm not looking at my dad at all, because like my dad did a lot. Like he was the chef, he was the guy who done all the DIY around the house. He was that person, innit? So I've taken those things in, but then at the same time I've taken some of the things from my mum, which were the like more the affectionate side of things, and like kind of like instilling that into like my relationship with Roman. Because I'm not saying that I didn't really get the cuddles and all that stuff from my dad, but like my dad's like Jamaican, he's not really a big cuddler, do you know what I'm saying? Like it's like, but I feel like I've tried to like implement those more like the more like affectionate side of things to my relationship with my son, because I know that it's nice to actually like feel that kind of like bond in it. Like that's why I'm not a mummy's boy, but like I'm a bit of a mummy's boy, do you know what I mean? Like, cause my mum's always giving me the cuddles in it and all that stuff. So it's like you appreciate those things in it. Like so I think that's something that I've taken from both my parents to instill, but I'm still the kind of person who wants to be showing my son I'm doing the DIY, like showing him that you can be creative and try different things and just be like just do what you want to do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so like I think for me it's definitely good to take. I feel like I've just taken things from both of my parents to put into how I parent my son. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think touching as well about the provider aspect of it as well. I think that's what my dad was like. My dad used to work maybe between 12 and 18-hour days. So, and I, similar to you, No Bear, I grew up with a lot of women. I have 5 sisters. One of them's here now, recording subtly. That experience obviously is different. But I think what I'm always thankful of is that even though he might have not have been there for the work, because of work, I knew that when I needed him, he was there all the time. So even on the smaller things smaller things of if I needed advice, if I needed guidance, and even my mum understanding of this is a conversation you have to have with your dad as opposed to just me. There's stuff that I can't tell you. Even smaller things of, say for example, he'd be fixing stuff in the house and my mum would be sending me to go to help him. And I'm like 8, and I don't care about this. I want to watch cartoons. I don't care about the sink. But even that, I didn't really realize what was happening at that age or that time or why she was doing that. But she was definitely like pushing that of like, it's important. I'm aware of that and having that kind of social awareness as well, because I think some people might be a bit more like, oh, it's fine. I can do everything. And he's just there. But yeah, and I think that's why, my relationship with my dad is at the moment so strong. I consider him, my best friend. If I have good news, I always go to him first. And then I go to my wife. I mean, he was here longer, to be fair to him. So yeah, and he gives me, and he's always been super encouraging of anything I do. I have a friend and he has quite a strange relationship with his dad. And he doesn't get that same level of confidence because they kind of question his ability as opposed to support his ability. So the ability of thinking you can do anything, if someone tries that, you can try that too. It's even just the aspect of just trying is something I like to instill in my son now. When he's only a toddler, but even when he says, oh, I can't do it, I go, no, let's try, and then tell me you can't do it. Try, and then tell me you can't do it afterwards if you can't, but you have to try first. And just even that kind of narrative and those kind of conversations are important in instilling confidence in them, because not to get too deep, but, as we get on to becoming young men, teenagers, etc., there is definitely a lack of confidence which isn't instilled in young men. And it shows, and sometimes it goes out into different ways. And if they don't have a structure, whether that is father or male influences in general, they usually go to negative influences and they have a kind of skewed idea of what masculinity is. But that's a topic we can talk about a little bit later on. But thanks very much for sharing on that one, guys. So based on some of the stuff you've said as well, is there certain lessons, positive lessons? I know you touched on some of the stuff you want to teach your sons or way of raising your children, which maybe your father didn't do. Is there certain lessons that he taught you that you're grateful for? And is there stuff that you would do differently? Because we know that, boomers or that kind of Generation X, I think it is Generation X, and boomers compared to modern millennial style parenting, how does that differ in your experience? What sort of parent are you compared to, I suppose we touched on it a little bit here, of what your dad is like, and kind of more what lessons and would you want to share with your sons?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot to that in general. And obviously as they grow and develop, there's going to be more kind of different lessons that you want to teach them as time goes on. But for me, it's like compassion. Like that's really important, that my sons understand compassion. There was a lot of pressure from my father in my household to strive for extreme excellence at all times, because my dad was very just talented at everything, and was like a scholar, island scholar in Trinidad and stuff like this. And so I wasn't like naturally incredibly bright. So I wasn't an A student or an A star student. I was more like a B and C student. And for my father, B and C isn't good enough. Do you know what I mean? It has to be like A star first or nothing. And I was struggling to get anywhere near up to those kind of, marks. But what I did understand, as life has gone on, and I've seen myself, I've seen myself surpass a lot of people in my school. I went to school not far from here, Cardinal Vaughan, which, you know, is a really good school. And what I've seen myself surpass some of my peers, you know, in my own field. And not that's anything to compare, but I realized that life takes on, you know, a different journey for everybody. And it's kind of not really so much about, I think, where you start. And I think in school, in terms of nurturing, there's an emphasis on nurturing, well, when I was growing up, like in academia, but being a well-rounded human being, growing up as, and I went to a boys' school, right? So being well-rounded, you know, growing up as a young man, there wasn't really much of emphasis on that. And for me, what's really given me like great experiences in life has been traveling. So I lived in Nigeria for my A-levels. I lived in the Caribbean when I was a small boy, been going back and forth between the England, Caribbean, and Africa my whole life. And travel and seeing how other people live and realizing that it's not all about you and that actually, you know, there's a level of compassion that we must have for each other. For me, like, that is the most crucial character trait that I want my sons to grow with. They can be good at this or not so good at that, or come first in this or not come first in that. But being loving and understanding to their fellow human beings is definitely the most important thing for me.
Yeah, Rob, you got to ask the question again. I was so engrossed in your. I'm thinking, what was the question, man? I'm just.
I suppose it's lessons and
Arisha, you got me
teachings.
there, man.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow.
I was very invested in that actually, because I've never heard an experience like that of being across so many different countries and then having someone who that kind of be excellent or nothing counts. That kind of attitude. Yeah, so that's. Yeah, wow, thanks. That was good. That was a good response. Step up, no bear, step up. No, just lessons and teachings, man. Lessons and teachings you teach your children.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I think I'm back on track now. From, you know, the thing is with parenting, of course, you there's obviously got to be lessons, you know, before you have a child, you're always saying, this is exactly how I'm going to be. But sometimes with your children, they just surprise you. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I'm like, wow, like, with Zion, for example, I'm not going to ramble on, but very quick. So I went to, when you have kids, you've got to do these kids' birthday parties, innit? So I'm at like the 150th birthday party. I'm like, let's just get these 2 hours out the way. But while I was there was a Jamaican girl called Nola in his nursery. Lovely girl, really, really confident. And the mum, I didn't know who the mum was. And she came to me and goes, oh my God, are you like Zion's dad? And I was like, yeah. And she went, I just want to say that in nursery, some of the kids were mean to Nola, talking about her skin. And Zion must have told Nola that your skin is beautiful. Now I'm standing there thinking, Zion, what? This ain't me. Like, I'm thinking, and when you talk about the compassion, so it kind of changes things, because I would probably think, right, if I went to work and someone was talking about colorism or how to treat people, I probably would have gone and said, let me have a conversation with Zion as I'm walking to nursery, innit, to tell him, look. But again, that's what I'm trying to say. Sometimes your children could just amaze you. And I'm thinking, all right, you've already got that sort of empathy and compassion there already. So I don't think I really have to, do you know what I mean, drive that home with him. Secondly, what I would say is about the best friend thing. I kind of feel that growing up, especially with my mum in terms of the Ghanaian, we had no choice if we were going uni or not. We had no choice about coming back with bad grades. It was literally, you had a purpose and you had targets that you had to do. And I kind of feel like I'm still like that now. I think that, of course, kids should have fun, but I also believe in my parenting, not everyone else's, that you have to have targets and standards. I think that's fine. I think I'm very, very comfortable with being the bad guy if I have to be. I'm comfortable with that role. They've got the mother. If she wants to be, you know, the good one, the nurturing one, that's fine. Because my goal, and it's always been, and people said, is this how you really feel? My goal is, I connected with my dad when I was in my 20s. That's how you speak about your dad now. That's when I thought, do you know what? Every single thing that you did before, and my mum as well, all the times when I thought they were too strict, I look back and think, thank God you were like that. So for me, I've always said, once Zion and Zayn hit an age where 20s or whatever, however they are, and they say, you know what, Dad, you were quite tough on me with certain things, but thank you for that. That's the moment I'm going to think, all right, I've kind of done my part. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't have to be the nice guy, or he's my best friend and he's kick. It's a very, very tough world for a man. And women, of course, I'm not taking that away, but in my role, it is a very, very tough time, and I have to do my best to prepare. And sometimes kids have to hear no. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they need discipline. It's very good. At that time when I used to get in trouble, listen, I didn't even know if I was going to see Saturday. But now I look back at it, I think, yeah, you know what? That's why I'm respectful to people. That's why I show empathy, because sometimes they do need discipline. So, and it's a balance. Do you know what I mean? So.
Sorry. In saying that, there's a saying that if you don't discipline your kids at home, somebody's going to discipline them outside. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like what you're saying is so crucial and so key, especially in this generation that we live in now, man. Discipline is like, man, it's important.
And it's not just discipline, and like obviously with our parents before, they never had, you know, maybe the opportunities or understand it. It's not just discipline telling them no for no reason, and then there's, you know, now you can talk about things. You know, when things calm down with me and Zion, we talk about it on the way to nursery, or he talks about it with me, and I say, look, obviously, I didn't really want to tell you off, but you can understand why I'm doing it. So that's probably where I'm going to take it on to a next level, because with my parents, that was it. You got dealt with. There was there's no conversation. Yeah.
No means no. That's it.
So maybe that's where I'm taking this now, like a little bit more of let's recap. Let's see why that happened. Let's not try to make that happen again.
I think you bring up an interesting point as well in regards to the compassion aspect of it. It's because I think even in nursery, I've started to see now as well, they talk very much about feelings of like, oh, I'm happy, I'm sad. When someone's crying, he goes, I was crying, Daddy, I was sad. So it's like even that understand. I don't even remember us having that conversation, whether that's school or in the home, of like what your feelings mean. And it sounds like, it's not supposed to sound like all super like new age, but the idea is they need to understand that because, you know, it has such an impact on their life. You know, it results into your actions. You felt like this, so you did this, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, super, super key.
Yeah, no, and to be fair, I just second everything that you guys have said, because I think it is really important to, when you are disciplining your children, to actually like have the conversations with them about situations and like kind of like let them explain what they were doing and explain why what they were doing wasn't necessarily the right way to do it, and explaining that to them so it kind of instills in them that the next time they're doing it, they're probably going to think about the conversation that they had with you, in order to be like, you know what, like last time I did this, like it was a bad choice. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it's just about, I think communicating with your children is really important, and because I know like when kids are really young, like it's easy to like baby them and like kind of like just like make it so it's not make it so the conversations you're having aren't as like intellectual. But I think kids actually really take on a lot of stuff from a young age. So if you're talking to them semi-grown up, so they're understanding the situations more, I think they take it on a lot more, because it's like my son's 4 and he can speak French, he can speak all these different things, but he's learning that at school, and it's like the things that they're taking in, like when we were young, we weren't learning those things at 4. Do you know what I mean? But like we could have been, but it wasn't naturally like given to us. You know what I mean? So we didn't absorb it, and like the younger they are, the more absorbent their brains actually are, so they can take things on more. So I think it's definitely about communicating and having like giving them the kind of like platform and energy to have a conversation with you about things, because it's like you're saying like learning emotions. I'm sad. Why are you sad? What's making you angry? Like them explaining it to you, and then you having a conversation back with them is very like, you know what I mean, it just builds that kind of communication that as they get older, they can come and talk to you like, Dad, I'm feeling really sad about this situation. Like, can you talk to me about it? Do you know what I mean? Because I think for me, me going to my dad, dad, I'm bare sad. As a kid, I wouldn't. I'd be like, he's gonna be like, go fix up. You know what I mean? But naturally, if you've instilled the kind of like progression in them over the years, that they can come and talk to you about things. Like if like they're at school and things are happening at school and they can express themselves to you, they're more likely to open up to you if you've given them that option from a young age. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, it's good to just like start those kind of relationships and those kind of rapport with your kids young, so you don't get to a point when like you don't know what's going on with them. They're 16 and they're in the room and they're not talking to you about things. You kind of wanna like have that open platform with them as young as possible, so they know that it's alright to talk.
Especially that with teenagers, you mentioned sort of 16, that kind of teenage age. I know that young boys, teenage boys, anywhere between sort of 13 and 18, they're going through stuff that we've probably gone through, but they don't feel comfortable talking to us. And I think some of the issues that we have, we talk about like in the news about gangs and all this and all these sorts of things, but the reason they exist is because they want a family unit. They feel a certain way, and these other people feel a similar sort of way, and that's where they identify. I think just sharing that idea that we've gone through stuff when, you know, it will probably sound like an old man to them, when I was your age, you know, but, you know, our male experience is probably not dissimilar to their male experience. Obviously, there's new things here with social media and that kind of pressures and all those different things, but understanding your emotions is one of the biggest things. It's understanding, because in boys especially, in young boys and teenage boys, what usually happens is a lot of things that happen are from anger, which comes from frustration, which usually leads to violence, because this is how we've been taught how to channel those emotions. And there's a theory that between men and boys there's an underlying threat of violence always. And it's that kind of idea of acting on an emotion and not having emotional regulation can lead you to life-altering consequences. You know, there's people that I'm sure we know, or friends that we've known, or friends of friends who have made impulse decisions and they're not here no more. Whether that's because, unfortunately, they've passed based on their emotions. So one emotion you can have can change your life. And I think a lot of, when we talk about young boys who end up in the prison system and stuff like that, it's because of initial reaction to how they felt in that moment. And I think that's one of the biggest things that they don't realize, that we might be getting onto you about getting angry about something, or it's not worth getting angry, or breathe, think about what you're about to do, because they're underestimating, or they're not aware of the real life ramifications of what could happen.
Definitely.
So it's just, I know none of us have teenagers yet, but it's probably going to be problematic. It's be problematic.
They grow fast.
It's still easier than teenage girls, man. You've grown around teenage girls. I've grown around teenage girls. They are volatile, to say the least. So, but I think teenage boys obviously have their own issues, which we spoke about briefly. And at the moment, there's a lot of things happening for boys and young men in today's climate. They're dealing with a lot of stuff. How are you going to prepare your son for these changes in this ever-changing society that's happening? Because it's completely different from when we grew up. There's stuff that they're experiencing that we never knew about. Some we're like kind of aware of it from the social media perspective and working in the industry, but I mean, the world could be completely different in 10 years' time. But based on what you've seen already and where the way the world's going, how are you going to prepare them for that?
I'll be honest with you. I say this to my wife a lot, as well as my friends and people around. Raising a boy in London City petrifies me. It scares the hell out of me. Or even just in the UK. Because the way things are going right now, I'm just like, you can, for example, take public transport, and where back in the day, if say an older person got onto the bus or the train or whatever else, you'd see, everyone stand up so they can sit down. You don't really see that anymore. Do you know what I mean? As much as before. And when I say this, I don't want to talk on behalf of all young, do you know what I mean, like young boys or young men, because this is not a reflection on anyone in particular, but when you see a kind of generalization, and it is a generalization, but you see a kind of a general kind of vibe that the respect and, again, compassion just isn't there as much. For me, it's like, it's scary. So obviously, because I have traveled and because I have grown up in different places, I know the benefit of what that is in building your character, especially as a young man. And so I always think about, where could I relocate to? But okay, if that option's out the window and, we have to face with what we're faced with, which is, raising our children in this society, then I feel like, as Norbert said, it's like the home. Do you know what I mean? Like the discipline in the home and learning as much as you can and try and teaching as much as you can at home. And as Marcel said about communication, having conversations, as much as possible. I also am a big believer in extracurricular activities as well. So growing up, I did martial arts, something I still do now, quietly, and I find that incredibly character building. I also believe in an element of spirituality. I'm not saying that you have to be any particular faith or religion, but I feel like even if it is just meditation, just having like a quiet moment to kind of hear your inner thoughts and your inner feelings and inner emotions is a great thing. Like I would love to be able to pray with my children, and for that to be a thing, like whereby we can, or even just meditate, or even just spend a moment of silence, where we can appreciate like what we're feeling inside. Like to me, that's really important as well. Community, like I feel is really important, as you said, Rob, about this kind of these emotions that are all kind of locked inside and needing to be expressed. Conversation. Do you know what I mean? Being able to speak with people and being able to emote, but with maturity and understanding, because that untapped emotion that gets bottled up and then explodes, and that those life-changing situations, as you rightly said, that people can find themselves in, they can be dealt with. They can be dealt with early on if we just talk. And I think even as adults, we sometimes still have that issue. I know I do. I know I'm very much one of these people that, needs to express myself in some type of way. Luckily, I have music. So, a lot of it goes into my songwriting, if I'm being honest with you, and being in the studio and performing like that. That gives me my release. But a lot of young men, a lot of young boys, sometimes they haven't quite found their thing yet, right? So that's why I talk about extracurricular activities and, different things whereby they can find their voice, I think is really, really crucial and right on time.
And sorry, just to further on that as well, I've lost my train of thought now. But yeah, you're exactly right about having a community, finding their niche. And I think sometimes we're told we're not enough when we're young. I think we're not told enough, like you mentioned before, about from the academic point of view, if you don't have this, you're not as good. But it's about, I don't think we receive, especially as young, I think my situation is slightly different, but especially as young black boys, we're told we're not enough. I know that Bashi speaks about this a lot, about the idea of, not being enough, not being capable, or just being dismissive. Like if we look at it from a school system point of view, black and mixed race boys are 5 times more likely to be suspended and expelled. And when you look at it like that, go on.
I mean, so as you say that, so as I said, I went to school like literally 5 minutes from here, which is like one of the top boys' schools in the country. Now, this is my experience. I got expelled, which a lot of people don't know, 2 weeks before my GCSEs from Cardinal Vaughan, from the school I went to down here. I moved to Nigeria, and I became head prefect in the 2 weeks of me being in that school. So Do you see what I mean? So sometimes it's in terms of environment and people being able to see your potential. Like Nigeria and Africa it brought out my potential. It made me feel like, oh, actually, I'm not a bad kid. I'm just misunderstood, and actually, I'm passionate, and actually here, all of the traits that maybe, I was told weren't positive traits in the UK, in Nigeria, they amplified it. They were like, no, you stand up, you speak, you debate, you feel passionate about something, you be respectful, but, it's okay. It's not like toxic masculinity to be able to voice, your views or feel passionate about, do you know what I mean, certain things. So I always find that quite strange when you talked about like the suspension and the expulsion and those kind of things, because how can you go from one place and they totally devalue you and then go to a whole other country and they show you so much value and they actually say, no, these characteristics that you were expelled for, actually we want to, uplift you. So this is what I mean.
No, I think, like what you're saying is quite important in terms of that's how I view things, and that's the same way I'm going to be with my family, is that not even as drastic as moving to another country, but just moving to another job, moving to another area, being in another relationship, meeting another friend. Because sometimes I look at certain men that have gone down. We were talking about this just off camera before that, how important people that you have in your life. It can literally, like, your children's friends or your friends. Sometimes I sit down, I'm like, thank God, like, I went to my school and met my friends now, because I speak to other people and then it's like, maybe they're not friends with their friends anymore, or, they've chopped and changed friends and stuff like that. So I think if you take someone from somewhere, it might not work for you there. We've all been there. You might be at a workplace, it's not gelling. Maybe I'm not really getting on with the manager. You move somewhere else and you excel. So, but coming on to the question, for me, every parent's different, but I've obviously trying is the 3 F's for me, and that's faith, family, and football. That's what. Yeah. That's what. So faith in regards to with Zion, what I'm trying to teach him is gratitude. So what I've introduced with bedtime is we always used to read our stories. I can't read the bear hunt again. Sometimes you're reading the stories, it's driving me mad now. Yeah, backwards. I'm like, oh my God, you want to read it again? But now what we do is we say a prayer. And what I want him to do, he's still asking, who is God? I'm like, oh God, this is a question now. Where have I started? But it's just about being grateful for the day. So we just recap the day. Sometimes we go, oh, thank you for daddy getting me an ice cream. Thank you for my nanny. I just want him to understand gratitude. That's what I want in my home, so he can understand even the small things that you think, all right, just give thanks. So that's with the faith. Family, I think, is important, because I want him to know that when you're outside, we're acting all the time. We actually start performing in school and nursery, because are you really your true self? If you go to a particular school and that's the way it is, or you're amongst other friends, you then tend to act and perform. But with family, what I love about it is that my sister's my best friend. You're cool with your cousin. There's no airs and graces here. Like, I can't come home and act slick in front of my sisters or my mum, because they knew when I was desperate and I had no one to play with, and they were playing shop upstairs, and my mum used to force, play with your brother. They know all them. So there's no point for me to try to be anyone that I'm not. And I want him to be humbled around your family. You could be real around your family, and families are not all perfect as well. So it's very important, I think, for him to understand his family and how important they are. And football is my final one, because I love football, but I feel like I've learned a lot through football in terms of life. And I mean in terms of being an individual, stepping up and performing for the team. It's a team game. But you also need to do your job. My coach always used to tell me, what did you do? Nobel, what did you do today? Before you start moaning at Rob giving away that free kick, or you're not giving me the ball and I haven't scored, what did you do for the team today? And it makes you being part of it, I think, it's a bit of accountability. All right, I'm doing my job, and how can I help others because if the team win, I win, and that's what I'm trying to. Thank God he's into football now, and we're just trying to build that relationship with him, so he's actually understanding. So I had to catch myself. I'll be very quickly. We went to football training, and he had a shocker. You know, sometimes it was so bad. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was driving home in the car, and I think he could tell I was steaming. I was like, "You've just disgraced." But I had to literally catch myself because it affected Zion as well. And as a dad, I had to think, do you know what? I need to calm down here. I know I've got my expectations. He's only 3, but still, I've got my expectations. And now we've kind of built a relationship. Now I know that it did kind of affect him. So it's the first time I thought, as a dad, maybe I was being a bit too hard on him and stuff. So we've now kind of built that relationship that we have lots of conversations after the game. So if anything goes wrong or goes right, I always ask him before, how do you think it went today? And that's kind of building mine and his relationship in terms of we've got something that we share now. So as I said, faith, family, and football, that's what we're rolling with at the moment. And that's kind of, I think it's a nice little trinity so he can be kind of well-rounded.
I love how you communicate with your son. I love that, just even like, how do you feel about stuff and how do you think that went? And like really asking his opinion, because I think when we were growing up, we're told what our opinion almost, right? Yeah. So I think that's such a great way of doing things. And just on the point where we're talking about schooling briefly, and we spoke about experience, what it's going to be like in the schooling system and in education. So I was fortunate enough to go to a private school when I was younger. And when I was younger, I never really understood it, especially being like the only, like there was maybe 3 black boys in the whole year. And I'm like, I don't really fit in here visually, like why am I here? But I noticed that they push you, I think, well, first of all, the classes were smaller, so you don't kind of get left behind. And people are, well, parents more specifically, are investing their time, their money into your education. So therefore, the teachers are aware that. So if you need support, they're not going to sideline you. And I definitely felt that. So I'm not a great math student, but I got additional tutoring, additional teaching from that as well, which I don't think if I was in another school, they might have been like, oh, he's just not good, leave him. And it's that kind of idea of being in a different environment where you have the ability to shine. And I do understand it because I know friends who are teachers, so I'm aware that the pressure they're under, the numbers they're under, they're dealing with kids who are sometimes are difficult. Sometimes it's a lack of attention at home, and it goes back to what we were saying about that, about the impact of home life and how that affects your school life and everything else. But so I do, and they are understaffed and all these other things. So I do understand the frustration, but I don't think they realize the impact that they have when they sideline a child and tell them that they're not good enough for their psychological issues or their mental health and stuff, and more importantly their confidence as well. So
yeah, so just touching on that, like so obviously when we found out we was having Roman, like one of my things was like London is a crazy place for him to grow up in. Like I was literally like, because the area that I was in, Chinkford, like it used to be deemed as basically Essex, and like it was nice area and all that kind of stuff, but then there was still like stabbings and shootings and all these different things happening. And I was like, this is actually scary stuff, innit? So I decided like we're gonna move a little bit further out. So went a bit further into Essex, and I think I'm not saying it was necessarily like it's 100% gonna protect him from all of the craziness that goes on, because craziness happens everywhere. Like it happens everywhere, innit? But I think for me it was more a situation of just like trying to create an environment. It's just creating the environment so he can like thrive as best as he can. Do you know what I'm saying? I think that's all any of us want to do. We want to make sure that he's around good people, like the circle, like the family. Like he's got a bit of faith in his upbringing, so he understands like the world is like a massive place, and like there's so many people in it, and you've got to find your path, and your path you just got to like walk in faith that you're gonna go in the right ways, but you just got to have people around you to kind of like guide you in that. And I think being a parent is basically guiding this young person who doesn't have a clue about anything. You've experienced life as much as you have in the years that you've had, and you can only guide them with what you've experienced. So like, so those times when you're getting on a bus and it's like, there's bare guys at the back of the bus and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do in this situation? Like mentally you're thinking to yourself, all right, I've got to go in there and I've just got to like stand my ground and just be there. Do you know what I mean? Like they like, don't look at them, it's too long and all that, like all of those things, they're gonna be in your head. But you then, in a way, you'll naturally like I think in life, like as kids, as young men, you need to experience certain situations so you can deal with those situations. Obviously, some situations are scary. Like something like I've been in situations that are scary, and it's like, like I never want to go through that again. But at the same time, going through that situation and coming out the other side of it, and like knowing that, oh, I've made it through that situation, it kind of like gives you the thing of like, well, I'm never gonna go back down that anyway. You learn certain situations. So I think it's about giving them as much room to grow in peace, but in life, I feel like there's still they're still gonna get into situations that aren't necessarily going to be easy. They aren't necessarily going to be like the smoothest road, but you've kind of got to just like instill in them certain things to like kind of like give them knowledge, common sense, like pride and all of these different things to like just be like, all right, cool, this is the situation I'm in. What would my dad do? And then just like, my dad would probably like go, I'm going to cross the road because it looks like like there's some trouble over there. So yeah, all right, do it. Like, but don't feel like you've got to be like, all right, cool. Like, like these guys look troublesome. I'm going to go and walk into this situation because I'm going to defend myself and fight or whatever it is. Because like these days, it's way too scary out here for you to be wanting to go and get yourself into a fight or get yourself into anything because of the pride that you're meant to have, or that your friends are like being like, oh, like. Because back in the day, peer pressure was a thing of don't do drugs and don't do that. But like I think now with kids, it's peer pressure is, oh, you've got to go and like go and do that or go and do this because it's like what is deemed as being like a young man and being like whatever it is. But I think it's just about instilling in your kids the rights and the wrongs, situations that if you don't feel comfortable in that situation, remove yourself from that situation. And I think it's about just like, as parents, giving them the knowledge that you don't necessarily need to do something that you don't want to do or you don't think is right or you don't agree with, or because other people around you are doing it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you need to instill in them the values. It's the values that as parents you've gone through, and you can like just basically be like, if you get into this situation, this is how I would handle the situation. But obviously you're going to make your choices. But just know I'm not going to look at you in a bad way if you decide I don't want to do that. I'm going to turn away because it's not the right thing for me to do. Do you know what I'm saying? That, so I think. And
just piggybacking on what you were saying, I never thought I was going to be this sort of parent, but I'm on it with his friends. Like, I mean, before I just want to drop him to nursery and leave it. Now I need to know exactly. Yeah. These friends that you've got. When my mom used to say that back in the day, like, I don't really like this one. I was like, why? But now I get it, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm fully committed now. I need to know, because what you were saying is about telling Zion or Roman, listen, don't do this, don't do that. That's just hearing from your father's point of view. But also, I kind of want to know who you're moving with as well. Do I kind of know their parents as well? I'm building relationships with parents I would have never spoken to before. But now I think you're in the same vicinity as my son. You're probably going to be in his school. I think we kind of have to try to influence this situation as much as I can. Of course, they're going to make their own decisions. But if Roman and Zion are in the same school and they're going to the same parties, and then as long as we're kind of singing loosely from the same hymn sheet, I kind of think, you know what, there's maybe a chance that Roman has got some common sense here. Yeah. Maybe, because obviously it looks like Marcel and the mum are doing the thing. So what you're saying is true, that you do want your kids to listen to you, but sometimes we don't. You know, I've had friends, look, God bless them, still friends with them today. But the madness that I used to go raving with some of my boys. My mum never knew. We used to go raving, garage raves. That's how I'm showing my age. And no, literally, the place is being shot up. Like, we're at the rave, the DJ's there, everybody falls on the floor. 2 minutes later, someone used to come on the mic and say, yo, let's keep the peace. Who wants to carry on raving? We used to actually say, yeah, let's carry on raving. Now I'm thinking to myself, honestly, I couldn't even think that Zion would be somewhere like that, guns have been going off, and Zion is saying, yeah, you know what, to be fair, I want to carry on raving. I would lose my nut with him, innit, the next morning, like, what are you doing? But it's because you've been there now, so you understand. And that was the friends, God bless them. I'm still friends with some of them now, but that's who I was moving with at that time. And you gotta do certain things. Obviously, my mum never knew who I was going out with. So I think I'm personally fully invested into seeing who his friends are gonna be. He starts school in September. It's game on from here now because I need to know who he's moving with. It's very important.
I'm going to take that tip because he's not in school yet, but I will take that tip of getting involved as well. But I think it's what you're saying as well, is you're kind of building their belief system. And I think that's super important, building confidence in them. Some friends you can't really see and you can't really see what they're like when you're younger as well. And also actually just to your point there about, being in the rave. Damn, being in a rave, no bear. Thought so much better of you. But just being in that and just kind of, when you're a kid as well, you think you're indestructible, especially when you're, I heard a wild story where there was this kid and he literally got stabbed like 4 times and he died 1 minute at a time or something. And he thinks he's Captain America because he's like, no one can touch him now. And it's that idea of thinking that nothing can touch you, you're indestructible, but then having those conversations of, it's not really like that out here. It's really not. You need to think about what you're doing, make the right decisions, move with certainty, move with confidence, knowing when to put your ego aside, which is another one which we speak about. A lot of people, I always say one of the most important things to men is respect, but also think about there's guys in the ground and there's guys in jail over disrespect. So think smart. Don't just act off it, which obviously goes back to what we spoke to about the emotional aspect of it. But one word and one term we're hearing so much now, whether that's on the media or social media or through particular circles, whether that's work or socially, is the words toxic masculinity. So there's a couple of buzzwords. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but there's a couple of buzzwords that I definitely see on social media. Toxic masculinity, gaslighting, narcissist, incel, and what's the other one that comes up? Those are the 3 kind of couple that come up. But toxic masculinity and this talk of toxic masculinity. So not disputing it exists, but that's not what we're talking about here on the panel. We're talking about positive masculinity. So to each of you, how would you describe that and what does that mean to you? And as a reflection, how are you going to instill in your sons, in this case, what positive masculinity looks like?
Yeah, social media is running wild right now with really bringing men down, and especially young boys. I think it's very, very sad. So, you see a lot of young boys now looking for the extreme, right? And then that's when the Andrew Tates of this world and all these different kind of other very extreme characters start to influence our kids in ways we don't want them to be influenced as well. So I think it's showing that, being a young boy, being a man, being a male, is a beautiful thing. I don't think there should be prejudice because of the sex that you were born with or you identify with. I just don't feel like that's a positive thing. Think about young boys trying to grow up in a world where they say because you are male, it means that you aren't good enough, that you're toxic, that you're a gaslighter, that you're a, what's the other buzzwords you said, all these other ones? Incels and all these different things. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's horrible. It really is horrible. And to strip away that very thing, do you know what I mean, that they can't help, which is who they were born as, is a very sad thing. So I think it's great, Rob, that you're very much talking about the positive masculinity aspect, because I think for young boys, they need to hear and feel empowered as much as possible. And what are the things to teach about positive masculinity? I mean, some of the things we've been discussing today, I think have already kind of touched upon those things, but it's how to convert those things. So, for example, being a man, growing up from being a boy to a man, feeling that, okay, I need to know how I perform in a fight, for example, or can I handle situations when it comes on top, or or if I pull up at a certain situation and there's a couple of boys looking around, how am I going to deal with that, and and really work your way through that. And I think that comes with wisdom. That's my view. Like, positive masculinity is about wisdom, and about making the decisions, right, that are smart enough to make sure that, one, you stay safe, right? And two, I feel like the opportunity to inspire as well, right? So trying to inspire your friends. So you talked about, peer pressure, the friends, being a leader. I don't think there's anything negative about being a leader, right? Or aspiring to lead in the right way. So, for example, when I was growing up, I think we probably grew up around a similar era, like a lot of my friends were, sometimes doing a madness, and I was always going in the opposite direction. So a lot of parents wanted me to always be friends with their kids. They always wanted me, they was like, yeah, hang out with Arisha. Yeah. Like, hang out with Arisha. That was always the thing that I was, like, it was always getting, my mum would always laugh because she's like, typical you, just like, that's how everyone was my friend. And to be honest with you, I was a little geeky boy that just wanted to be an artist. Do you know what I mean? Wanted to be a singer, wanted to be a musician, looked after his family. But it was very much about, like, as well, like, I'm going to talk about black men now as well, right? That, one thing that the thing that really kills me is that the media really kind of place this kind of, like, this emphasis around connotations, right, around young black men being aggressive, being always involved in criminal activity, always, do you know what I mean, all these different things. But young black men, we love our families. We're passionate about our families. We fight for our families. Do you know what I mean, we're loving, we're caring. Do you know what I mean? We will care, we will stand up for people. Do you know what I'm saying? That are being hard done by, or bullied, or being made to feel lesser than. So there's all of these amazing positive traits that we do possess, but they're not spoken about. They're not put on display. They're not promoted, and those traits aren't even invested in. Let's talk even from that perspective. I'm going to talk from a music perspective. So obviously, a lot of what they've been pushing in the recent few years, and I'm not talking about anything bad about any particular music genre, but everything is very, like, drill, rap heavy, right? And the certain sometimes subject matters are kind of quite limited, or very kind of like one way, whereas actually there are many young black male artists that, like myself, are singers, and we sing about love, and we sing, about, different things that aren't related to the streets or the roads, that give you a bit more of a well-rounded kind of view of life, and more diverse subject matters, right? So if our industries and our culture and the infrastructure that we live are able to really put emphasis on raising, right, young black men and young black boys who are able to tell different stories about their experiences in a positive way, isn't that only going to have an influence on so many? And that's going to have the positive influence on so many. And that, for me, is what's important. When I was a young boy, I didn't relate to, the street rappers, because I wasn't from the streets. I went from the hood. Do you know what I mean? I saw street activity, but I wasn't from the streets. I grew up in a loving, caring family. So what more pulled my way was songs about love and singers and being emotional and romantic and, all these different things. I was that kid, that would sing to girls. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? I tried to rap once and it was horrendous. Like, I won't give you my rap name, but that's what it was, Sorry, Marcel, by the way, I know you do your thing. I play.
Toxic masculinity. Yeah, no, it has been. Yeah, I would say that, and it is happening. I think being the youngest, as I said, I was immersed in lots of females in my family. So I think in terms of tackling those sort of names and trying to make sure that Zion doesn't feel isolated or, people calling him this, is all about confidence. And I kind of feel, I'm so grateful that at the time it was like, oh my God, like I couldn't wait for my male cousins to come round, because I just had enough of living in the house, 2 older sisters. If it wasn't Dirty Dancing, it's then my nieces, it was all Disney. So it was very, very female influence. However, I actually loved it, and it gave me confidence, to be honest with you, that if there's people talking about toxic masculinity, or some guys feeling scared to talk or be labeled something, I've always been very, very open and confident to speak to women, because the more you do is the more that you learn. Because if you are quite male heavy influence, you might come out with wild statements, but I've always had my mom and my sisters and nieces there. So I kind of think it's been an important, and it's about communication, being a strong communicator and being confident. I want Zion to be confident to challenge certain things. Like me, I'll challenge it. If I don't know about toxic masculinity, I'll ask someone at work or some females, what is this? What do you go through? What have you experienced? Why do you feel this way? And then you can kind of understand, like, okay, well, she's not talking about me, but I understand what's going on. So I think it's very, very important.
I think just on that quickly, you said you're not talking about me. I think that's the thing as well. Like, I've had conversations with people where I'm like, I'm not like that. My friends aren't like that. I'm aware the world is bigger than me and my friend group, but to us, we're like, that's weird. We wouldn't behave like that. Why would we need to behave like that? Yeah. And I'm like, is there that many odd kind of guys who behave like this? This is news to me, like, because I don't surround myself with people like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not like that myself. But then obviously I hear certain situations, some behavior, and I'm like, this is kind of happening a couple of different times. I'm like, it can't just be one or two oddballs. So that kind of opens up my mind to think, okay, well, I just wasn't aware, and I'm glad you've said that to me, because similar to you, like I said, I've grown up with girls, but they've never said to me about they've had problems with men at work saying certain things or being worried about their safety going here and there, because I don't know if this is a positive or a negative, but in kind of my upbringing, certain things which were, I suppose, women's or girls' narrative, my mum covered that. So I was kind of a bit oblivious to certain things. But then again, on that side as well, she's also kind of had to explain to them that, okay, even though there's a lot of you and there's one of him, he's not thinking like you. And that's not a bad thing. You want him to be rolled up or annoyed about this, but it's not that he doesn't care. I mean, maybe I don't care, but he doesn't process things in the same way you process, and just being aware of each other. And I think on that topic as well, we've had, throughout our whole lives, we've been told how to treat women well, be like this towards women. But I don't think there's a lot of conversations of people saying to women, this is how men think and feel and how to be treated as well. So I think that's a conversation which definitely needs to be had more.
And I think right. And I think it's about having conversations. And I think there is a misconception that all men are the same and all women are the same, because I've grown up and I obviously at work, obviously Marcel, we've worked together before. I'm always getting into debates. I actually really enjoy getting into debates, whether it's football with guys or culture, religion, obviously male and female relationships, because I think you can learn so much more about it. And this notion that all women think the same is a fallacy, because I've spoken to some women that this is what their expectation of what a relationship is. This is how they feel. And I've spoken to another woman and she just doesn't agree. And what's happening right now, it seems like there's these movements that are going on that, all females think this way or all guys think this way. So these guys are all incels. That's how they think. But this guy might not actually believe anything. No, not you, Darren. yeah, you're thinking, no, not me.
Or as well, like, just on what you're saying, just on what you're saying as well in terms of those movements, then there's sometimes an expectation that okay, if you're not this way, like this movement, then suddenly you're a bad person.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
And that goes on male and female side.
Yeah, and no, exactly that. So I think coming back to your thing about like toxic masculinity and stuff, I think obviously with Zion, I want to make sure that he learns to communicate, to speak to the females in his family, which is where you start, and then his school, and understanding his place in the world. But in terms of his kind of like upbringing, I would like him to kind of follow my lead. Like when I was younger, there's certain things that he does now, and I'm like, oh my word, like I've called my sister and said, okay, Chanel, I'm sorry, because this kid is nuts. I never knew, like, she would tell me as a kid, I was obsessed with Spider-Man, I was the Joker. I just woke up every day wanting to annoy my sister. This was my life. Like, I was thinking I'm the youngest, the only boy, certain things go my way. So when I see Zion's crazy behavior, I have to take a step back, but I also have to see myself in him as well. So coming about like other influences with guys and stuff, I've always liked trainers. I've always liked clothes. That's just how I am. So what I'm trying to build with Zion is that he also likes these things as well. I don't want him to be spoiled, but I do want him to know if I want this, that, A, B, and C, the first point of call to get that is my dad. I'm not going to give it to him straight away. We're going to have to work on how you're going to get it. Because what I don't want him to do is feel, oh, actually, this PlayStation 12 might be that much money. He's not going to get it from me. You know, my parents are going to be like, no, he's not going to. And then they might go outside. Or to get these pair of trainers, you're going to start moving with other people who are going to promise you things. I want Zion to know, whatever you want, we're going to talk about it and we'll work towards that. So if you do want this, and it is quite a lot of money, I know how he felt. When I was a kid, as I said, loved trainers. So I remember, let me tell the year, 1995, right? So Jordan released the Jordan 11, Bred 11s, yeah. I wanted these trainers, like, so badly. I already told everybody on Friday that I had them in school. I didn't even have them yet, right? So I was under pressure that weekend, and it was my birthday weekend, and my mum took me to JD Sports. She said, look, this is your budget. You've got £100. This is your budget for your whole... The trainers were £100. My mum was like, are you really going to spend all of your money on this? And that's what I wanted to do. So I understand when you want something as a kid, and kids do, young boys are going to want certain things. You're going to want trainers, you want watches, you want... Once they're told no, they can't get that, when I was younger, that's when I kind of went that way. And I had other friends that made sure that I did get that now. So there's certain things I had as a kid that my mum would never spend that money on. She didn't really know. She's a Ghanaian woman. But if I wanted that, for Versace shirts or something like that, I always thought, Mum ain't going to give this to me. Dad ain't going to give this to me. Maybe if I move with these guys, I'm going to find a way to do that. And that's what I'm trying to work on with Zion. He's not going to be spoiled because he's not. But I want him to be comfortable, to have these conversations. And I want to tell him, you're not ready for that. That's too much money. However, let's find a way. If you do want that, maybe we need to work out a plan. Maybe we need to start doing things where you do chores. Maybe you need to start building up credit. Maybe if you give me these grades, then maybe we'll work on it with because I think that's a key thing about young men being influenced, is that they want it's worse now today. They've got social media, so it's plastered. We just had the 4 channels. That's the only way you're going to find out about, the latest trainers or the Toys R Us advert. Then you're like, okay, I want that. So for me, I want him to be able to approach Dad always like, okay, I like that. Let me go to Dad. Let me ask what his thoughts are, or this is what I want. Can we make this happen?
I think that also goes into a bigger lesson as well, of the idea of delayed gratification, and the idea of we can do this, and the idea of if you have everything too easily, you won't appreciate it. But if you, like you said, they're doing chores, or look, I'll give you a little bit of money to get you started. You can come up with other money by doing some chores, doing this, doing that, and then when you get it, it'll feel like yours. It won't be just like, oh, your dad bought it. So even like when I got my first car, my dad saying, come up with X amount of money, and I'll match that money. And I was working at the time or whatever. I mean, I'm still working, but he's like, you come up with that and we'll give that and we'll help you get started. But a little bit has to come from you. I can't just give you something because you'll never appreciate it like that. And it just changes your mentality as well if you know you can get anything. So I'm a little bit more, I mean, he doesn't want much now with that kind of stuff, but I'm very much like, just don't give it to him, let him do it himself, let him build, because it's also building confidence in yourself and your ability.
Yeah, so for me, I feel like in regards to like toxic masculinity and all of the labels that are now there for different types of men that are in the world, I feel like those type of men have always been around in the world. Like they've always been around. There's just never been a label for a specific type of man. Do you know what I'm saying? But I think now because of social media and because it's literally like a big talking point, that people are that I feel like, because I don't even feel like it's just for men like narcissists and all of those kind of like labels. They can work on both sides of the gender, but I think for me to kind of like not combat like Roman falling into like being like a specific like. I feel like you naturally become the kind of person you're gonna be anyway. So I feel like me, it's like me. I was always confident talking to girls. I was always into fashion. I was always into like being creative and wanting to like throw myself into doing certain things. But I think with how the world is now, it's very easy. Like again, it's the thing of not being able to communicate and speak to outside people, because some people don't talk to each other. So they'll sit in their room and be on their headsets playing computer games, and that's their community. They're people that they don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like you can like it's easy to be influenced by outside people if you haven't got the options to talk to people and take yourself out of being like an introvert or whatever it is that you are in it. So I feel like for me, I'm just always gonna make it that Roman has the confidence to come and talk to me, or the confidence to like go and talk to his big cousin, like him and his girl cousin Destiny J, they're like best friends. But I think having that relationship growing up, being able to talk to a girl and her giving you advice and whatever it is, all of those things are important. So I think me having a big sister, my sister was 3 years older than me, and she was just on me consistently, like, I don't like this girl, I don't like that girl, and it's like, why don't you like her? Like, you're like, I'm having these conversations, but I'm doing that so I can like be like, maybe I've got to look out for that because my sister's saying you should be looking out for that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like having those kind of relationships and knowing how you treat girls and how girls will in turn treat you is like something that develops your relationship with women. Like some guys who are like predators or just like toxic towards women, it's because they probably haven't had good relationships with women, or they don't get along with their mum or or whatever the situation is. But like those things really really play a big part in how you treat other people. It's like yeah, no, I don't need to say that, but it's like how you grow up. Me talking to girls and like always having like not necessarily saying that like I had like bare girlfriends, but like I was always friends with girls at school because they just like to talk to me about certain things, innit? Like I just like give them banter, or like give them advice and all that kind of stuff. And I think having those kind of relationships made it so when I talk to girls now, even if it's not in a romantic way or whatever it is, I can have a relationship without coming across like, oh, like I'm just trying to chat to you to sleep with you or to do whatever it is. That I can have a actual rapport, and it just actually be like a natural, what's the word? It begins with a P. Platonic situation. Do you know what I'm saying? Knowledge.
Communication is key.
But like I think encouraging those situations where he is able to talk to different people and talk to different just different people in general, like different races, and not feeling like there's anything that needs to change how you treat other people based on how, oh, like they might not like me because of this, or they're not talking to me because of this, or whatever it is, and then you build up a thing in your head of, oh, well, like if they don't talk to me like that, then I'm gonna be like this with that kind of person. It's like you need to kind of like filter that out and just like give them the actual confidence and the belief to be able to like communicate with anybody, because I feel like communication is a lot of the reasons why people get themselves into situations that aren't like, you know what I mean, aren't really like straightforward. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it can get messy.
I think it's like essentially judging people on character, recognizing good character in people, you know, regardless of gender or sexuality or anything like that, or race. So it's just understanding people as people. So, you know, I like to, you know, create a perception of a person based on what their character is like. So that's what I'll base it on. If someone is a negative person, they're a negative person, regardless of what they look like or what they believe in or anything like that. If your mindset and your behavior is negative, toxic, then you're a negative person based on that basis as well. I'll probably just summarize a little bit here, guys. I know we've been going on for a while, but there's some great conversations here, great topics, and your opinions, guys, are very important. I think the final one I want to finish on before we sort of finish up is, we spoke about, most of us have got relatively young children. When they become, you know, young men and older men, 18, 20, 25, 35, whatever it may be, how would you like them to describe you? If someone was to say, oh, what's your dad like? Or what did your dad teach you? Or more so like their opinion of you as a father, not just as a person, but as a father in particular.
So, unfortunately, I haven't seen my first son for about 8.5 years. He's 10 years old now. So for him, I want it to be very, very clear, my son Omre, for him to know that his dad spent every, you know, living day fighting to be in his life, to be with him, to be by his side. That for me is really, really crucial that Omre understands that. And my second son, Shiva, I want him to understand that, do you know what, my dad really just wanted me and my brother to be together, to be one, and to bring the family together, and that was most important for him, because I think sometimes when kids grow up in, you know, with situations like what my kids are growing up in, you know, it can sometimes seem like you favor one over the other, or you spent more time with one, and even though you didn't have the opportunity to spend time with the other. So I always vision that day when Shiva and Omre come together, them saying, wow, like, you know, Daddy did everything, Papa did everything to bring us together. So that for me is definitely what I would love right now.
Wow. Like I touched on earlier before, as I said, I don't want, you know, I don't want them to think, oh my God, yeah, my dad's my best friend or what have you. I want them to get to a stage when they're men and say, do you know what? He done his job, man, my dad. They probably are going to tease me about the way I dress or what I thought was slick, or, you know, why am I still supporting art? They better be Arsenal supporters as well. But I want to get to that stage where they're going to be men as well. And now it's kind of like the circle of life. I remember when I moved out and stuff, Mum was like, you're not coming to see me enough. Or my dad will be like, when's the last time I've spoken to you? It could be like 2 days. But I do want my boys to just, I want them to be confident men. I want them to love their families as well. And I do obviously want them to spend a little bit of time with pups. Because now I get where my parents are coming from. Come on, man, take your dad to a game, innit? Like, say, look, I might do it every 2 weeks as well. And I want to get to that stage with them that they'll be like, you know what, I generally loved, because I call my mum, and if we've had a little tiff or argument, I always try to remind her at least once or twice a month that, do you know what, Mum, no matter what happened, nobody's perfect. But you gave us the best birthdays. You gave us the best Christmases. Like, I was never harmed. I'm not saying we were rich, but you really made that my childhood is magical, because there's a lot of things that I love now is because of the setup that my mum gave. And I think I kind of would like that in the future to say, Dad, it wasn't perfect at times. Maybe you were a bit tough on us, but I really loved, do you know what I mean? I really enjoyed the Christmases. I enjoyed the birthdays. I kind of like the boundaries that you've set. So that's what I would like them as young men to say, you know what? He was a bit tough at times, but he was fair. And I get it now. That's what I said. Once they say that to me, a tear will roll down my eyes. I know the job is done, innit? When your son says, I get it, Dad. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're a good dad, man. Like, I didn't understand at the time. I thought you were a bit tough on me, but now I really, really, really do get it. And that's just the goal for me with my boys. That's it.
I like that. I like that. No, so for me, I feel like obviously, like with my relationship and my situation, there's a lot of stuff's happened in the last couple of years that's created a situation where me and his mum aren't together, and I feel like as the years go on, I feel like from this point, because obviously it's a really hard situation to decide this ain't gonna work out between us. We need to separate, and we need to move forward for not just for our benefit, but to make it the best situation for him. And I think I just want to do everything that I can do I've always been providing, I've always been giving everything that I could give to the situation to like make sure that he's okay. He's always my priority no matter what. And I feel like in the future, I want him to just look back and be like, all right, I understand everything that went on between you and Mum, and I appreciate how you handled the situation in order to give him as much stability and as much like confidence and not change his life too drastically, just so he knows that, yeah, like mad things happened. Dad dealt with them in the best way that he could do, and by doing that, he's literally, I've never felt any difference towards him. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like I just want to make sure that with every choice that I make, every decision I make, and everything that I do, it's just the right thing for him, and I want him to appreciate all of those steps when it comes to like actually understanding what went on and how well I handled the situation, if you get what I mean. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you, gentlemen. I know that was probably difficult for some as well to share that as well, so I appreciate that. I think we're going to wrap it up here. It would be great just to get your socials, any projects that you're working on at the minute, and as always, thank you very much for joining us. So we'll start with you, Avishay.
Yeah, so me, I've been dropping solo records since last year, which have been going really well. Thank you for the support, Rob. I've got a new record coming this summer with some incredible collaborative artists. I've got a lot of other things going on, but right now the music and just keep on pushing that. I'm really, really just gassed about, and I'm appreciative for all the support that everyone's given me up to this point, man. So love and respect, man.
The music hosting is still continuing, so I'm still working with Levels. So we do that once a month at the Conduit in Covent Garden. We just did a jam session with Beyonce's band on Monday, which was honestly, it was incredible. So I'm going to continue hosting those live events. The season is finished with Offside Chat, so we're off radio until August, but we will be pushing some more YouTube channels. So we'll be branching off because it's a football show that I do, but being a gooner, it is very
Gooner.
It's very difficult to be balanced at times because I find myself edging towards. So I will be launching an Arsenal podcast in the next couple of weeks as well. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, and I'm obviously Marcel. My Instagram is Marcel_RockUB. If you want to follow me, just give me a follow. But yeah, no, like I've got like quite a few projects coming up. I'm doing like a big campaign because I'm a type 1 diabetic. So I'm doing a big campaign with Dexcom and Diabetes UK, where we're going to be putting on, but obviously like it's probably directed more towards diabetics, but it's like we're putting on charity events to build confidence in younger diabetics, because obviously sometimes it can be like daunting and strange, and trying to like meet new people and trying to find a community where you feel like fully at peace with having a condition. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff towards the end of the year. So yeah, like if you want to follow in or get involved in any of that, like feel free. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much. I don't know if anyone had any questions. If you have, we can do them now. If not, we can wrap up, and thank you everyone for coming. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. Well done, Rob.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. And of course, feel free, like any questions, additional questions, come and speak to us, and we'll answer them best we can. And yeah, really appreciate you all coming down. Thank you.